afternoon, everybody. My name is Neko Pai, Managing Director at Pop Venture. We are on a mission to democratize access to private venture deals and private capital markets by enabling everyone, accredited or non-accredited, to invest in private venture deals. And it's an exciting mission to be on, and even more exciting to share the stage with other leaders in financial inclusion and sustainability. And without further ado, I'm going to pass it in this direction for everyone to introduce themselves as well, starting with Janina.
Thank you so much. Hi, my name is Janina Bauer. I'm the Global Head of Sustainability at Celonis. Celonis is the market leader in process intelligence, and we make processes work for people, companies, and the planet. And I have a bit of a double role that is quite interesting. So I ensure that our tech company is a sustainable one, which has all of the ESG dimensions. And I'm working very closely with IT and finance. But I'm also developing solutions for our customers where we make sure that supply chains globally are more transparent and traceable. So quite an exciting mission.
I'm Livio. I'm the Executive Director of the Leonardo Center at Imperial College. And we are here on a mission to accelerate business transition, not only to sustainable inclusive logics, but to regenerative logics, which means to become net positive for people and planet. We have created a cross-disciplinary knowledge hub that connects competencies across the college at a global level to translate research insights into actions at multiple levels of interventions, to help leadership mindset shift in order to drive organizational change, to help companies drive not just their transition, but the evolution of their ecosystems, and to work with international institutions to connect the private sector with public policies. And we are building these research insights with the logic to translate these into impact at a scalable level by partnering with global networks, companies, and leaders that are sharing this vision.
I'm not as smart as the predecessing speakers right here, although I'll try my best. My name is Adrian Zdunchik. I'm a CMT, that is a charter market technician, and I'm the only CMT in my country, and that pretty much sucks. It feels very lonely when I'm the only one. However, I'm trying to set the right precedence in quantitative analysis for the profitability, especially in the Web3 decentralized finance space and the cryptocurrencies. I'm a CEO and founder of the Burb Nest that is also operating as a Web3 accelerator. So we help accelerate to growth to a lot of companies that want to deal with the cryptocurrencies, that want to deal with the Web3 space because of the impact that it can actually create, right? And by, for instance, adjusting just a little bit of a tiny percentage of the reserves, just potentially what Donald Trump may actually introduce, anytime soon, we're going to find out that there's an incredible effect of compatibilizing the decentralized finance in our traditional daily lives. I advise to the Minister of Finance, to celebrities, to high net worths, to individuals who are too busy basically to get onto Web3 themselves, but they need to appreciate the fact that it's growing very fast, that it's a very, very rampant industry. ETFs are here, very big players are here, and I'm trying to navigate the deep waters for them. And on the Web3 accelerator stuff, like I said, that it comprises for most of the business. We help put together all the go-to-market strategies, the funding, the VCs, market makers, exchange listings, basically putting all the community building for them in a trustworthy, reliable, competent, qualified, and licensed manner.
Amazing, and we're going to get a lot into DeFi today, but before that, you said something that really resonated with me, being the only CMT in your country and it being lonely at the top. So I just want to take a moment to thank the Cannes Diversity Collective, Davos Diversity Collective, and also Inkwell Beach, where it's never lonely at the top. So thank you for having us. In addition, I would be remiss to not acknowledge that we're sitting here on a historic day, not only inauguration in the United States, but also MLK Day. Yes, shout out for that. And so having a conversation about building a more inclusive financial future and building digital economy is so timely, and I'm excited to dive right in. So without further ado, my first question, which I'll pose to all of you, and I'll frame it as such, Let's start with the macro view because everyone on this stage has survived many different market cycles. We've seen markets go up, we've seen them come down, we've seen lots of emerging trends, and we forget sometimes when we talk about innovation, digital innovation especially, but when we talk about financial innovation, at some point the credit card was cutting edge. And so I want to take a step back and ask everyone on the panel, what are you most excited for in this moment, in this economy, on the backdrop of increased global interdependence? What are you most excited for financial innovation? I'm gonna stop because I see Steve. Woo!
A round of applause for
A
Steve.
round of applause for Steve. Welcome to number 4. We're excited to have you. And I'm actually going to pick on you because you're late, so you're gonna start this off. You are early, but if you're 15 minutes late, if you're 15 minutes early, you're late at Inkwell Beach. So I'm gonna start with you. Backdrop is you've been through several market cycles. You've been at the leadership of financial innovation for decades.
3.
Yes. And so the question posed to all panelists, and we're gonna start with you, and I'm gonna ask you to do a brief introduction before you answer. What are you most excited for in this moment? What do you see as the greatest opportunity for financial innovation
I mean,
in
if
this
you look
economy?
behind yourself, how great is that, huh?
Never lonely at the top.
You know, it's interesting. It's a great question. I have started in the financial world when it was graph paper and pen. My boss said, Stephen, if you can learn commodities, you can learn anything. That was 33 years ago, right? 33 years ago. And look at finance over time. It has changed so much. Today, we can't even wait to see our graphs and how our, in our case, CMT Association, all those things that make us who we are, right? We can't wait to see Bitcoin at 108,000 today, new high, right? When 3 decades ago, there wasn't Bitcoin, right? What I'm saying is the speed of technology is so fast now that it's actually passing us up. It's actually, we're at this thing called, I'm going to start calling it tech fatigue. We're at the point where we don't even want to be having our phones out all the time. We're at the point now where we don't even care. We're electing leaders that probably shouldn't be there. We're in a place right now where technology is actually outpacing us. So what do we have to do as people? We got to take a break, say, hey, you know what? It's okay. The world is okay. Right? We come to WEF to talk about the real problems. Water, air, solutions on the beach, right? Bitcoin's not gonna solve that. But technology, algorithms will fill that void. How do I make this algorithm work faster? In our case, Pfizer, right? We can now make drugs faster than ever. I was at Pfizer headquarters about 3 weeks ago, and they were solving problems we didn't even know we had. If you think about it from the perspective of COVID, we solved that in a year and a half, right? So in finance technology, I wanted to go another step. I knew that over time, my 3 decades, I wanted to learn how all the world worked together, right? So if something happens in Japan, how does it affect us here? So last year at WEF, we talked about that from an AI perspective, right? Everybody was talking about AI. Today, we're actually seeing actual apps that are actually happening, right? So in my case, how I won 4 awards internationally was that I wanted to take AI and attach them to actual databases. So think about it from, in Japan's case, I was just there last week, FSA, right? Their SEC. I want to take all their data, government data, UN data, WEF data, and put it and take the AI and attach it to the actual databases. Instead of the other way around where AI goes after that data. I wanted to create that, and we did. And you know what? It's actually fixing the problems faster than we had in the past. And that's what I wanted to create. And a year later, here we are.
Amazing. And before we move on, I just want to touch on 2 things. You said we solved COVID in a year and a half.
Yay!
Solved is a strong word. Reasonable people can debate about that later on after the panel. But the point that you made about blockchain not solving a lot of the world's problems, I want all of us to dig into over the course of this panel. I see a lot of opportunity for decentralized finance to actually solve a lot of the financial insecurity in the world that underpins food insecurity, that underpins housing insecurity. If we're able to leverage blockchain to get actual liquid in the hands of everyday people all over the world, I think that we have an outsized opportunity to solve a lot of other problems at the same time. And in that vein, I want to highlight the moment that we're in with cryptocurrency in particular. There are a lot of crypto enthusiasts who see a Trump administration as a green light, full green light to global wide-scale adoption. And when you think about it, we have a lot of signals in that direction. Like you said, it's been hitting all new highs. We've seen the market cap for cryptocurrency grow 1.5 trillion with a T since the election in the United States. That's a big number. We also just had a crypto ball at inauguration on Friday in Washington, D.C., completely sold out with tickets that cost up to $1 million USD. Imagine that. And so a lot of folks are viewing this as a signal that we're going to get to wide-scale adoption even faster. And I'm going to come to you, Adrian, and maybe get your perspective as well, Steve, because I want the audience to be grounded in reality of what the practical challenges are. What are some of the tailwinds? What are some of the challenges faced by global adoption of crypto?
Well, I think it's always been about the big person that's kind of like trying to lead the way, right? Since now you brought up the President Donald Trump, then completely leaving the political kind of like, debate aside, I'd say that having the big, strong leader, objectively, a person that's kind of that's going to become a face of the cryptocurrencies, can become a big accelerator, can become a big catalyzer, right? So having Donald Trump set precedents basically for putting crypto as a piece of a national reserves, to the United States, is likely setting a precedence for many other country leaders basically to take up exactly the same narrative, right? The situation is that it's not us, the crypto folks, anymore. It's Larry Fink who's talking about crypto as the flight to quality, and running, the BlackRock ETF basically outpacing, the gold ETF over 20 or so years, doubling and tripling, or even on top of that in terms of the AUM and the interest. There's such an incredible institutional demand for the people that translates to the call for efficiency, for transparency, for the actual utility that it can get out of that. Although the financial kind of like a element to it cannot be also avoided, because a tiny bit of a percentage of money just put, on a scale like the pension funds, central banks, nation reserves,
2%.
2% or even less, right? It gives you incredible amount of upside while limiting the actual risk that you can put on it, right? It becomes a very attractive portfolio diversification method, and it's very efficient. Like the risk-adjusted returns on Bitcoin beats tenfold to the S&P 500, for instance, right? The simple Sharpe ratio on S&P is very close to, 0.2, 0.3 at best, right? On Bitcoin, you get tenfold of that. So by adjusting just a little bit of a tiny percentage of your assets to Bitcoin, you can give incredible amount of upside to your portfolio, to the equity curve, and at the same time keeping the risk very minimal, right? That sets the precedence not only for traditional investors, for retail traders, for people who want to kind of like live day by day with cryptocurrencies, paying for it and so on. It actually changes the whole game on an institutional, on a country level.
Steve?
I think the key to crypto has always been the same. It's been education. In my case, I had a guy come to me and said, Steve, I just left the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. He goes, Stephen, I want to show you something. I think you're gonna like it. It's called Bitcoin. I don't really know much about it, but I think you're gonna like it. At that time, it was around 84 cents, something like that. And I got up. I said, look, the truth is, Wall Street's gonna hate it. Governments are gonna hate it. People aren't going to adopt it. We already have credit cards, and of course, I didn't wake up till it was $75 and finally bought Bitcoin. Today it's 108,000.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But I think that's the key. We're not even, if you think about baseball, we're not even in the first inning.
Right.
When I talked about the internet back in the day, I think this is going to be a really cool thing. I think the internet's going to actually change the world. And I don't know, Steve. I don't know. It's the I don't know in the worlds that people are saying. And I think we need to, as people, need to stop saying I don't know or I don't understand. It's education. I think that's one thing I put in my platform, is to help the higher level people put education in the hands of people who don't really know. And now we're seeing adoption at the fastest rate ever. I mean, I'm talking about blockchaining between land and real estate to Bitcoin to stocks to our bank accounts. Raise your hand if you have a crypto account, right? I mean, yeah, exactly. Last year it wasn't the same. Last year it might have been one or two. It might have been just me and Adrian here on the stage, right? And I think that's the key. And I look forward to the day when, and I'm already talking about now, quantum computing is going to change the world, because the problem right now that we have is microtransactions. We got to be able to handle that. So I think obviously energy and microtransactions are the next level that we have to worry about.
Awesome. And you brought up the Trump coin, so we might as well talk about it. Elephant in the room wasn't even a thing a week ago. Went from virtually nothing to $14 billion in a couple of days. Still nothing in the grand scheme of crypto. When you think about the scale at which it grew and how quickly, what are the implications for other world leaders doing similar coins, or even governments doing similar coins? Adrian.
So funny, well, it's a double-edged sword, right? You have to understand that it's a tool in the wrong hands, it become an actual weapon. And I'd say that what Donald Trump's done, again, I have no particular stake in the United States politics at all. I'm not American, right? What Trump did, I think it was a genius move in terms of having that released 2-3 days before the actual inauguration day, right? That ensured that each and every single person in this industry kind of like moved away from discussing anything else cryptocurrency but Trump coin. It was the Trump's surname, the mark, the face, everything was incredible, kind of like incredibly well-performing marketing gig that pulled off. That I think also, speaking of setting the precedence, put out a symbol to the people that, first of all, it validated something as dirty and sketchy as meme coins, something that we know as meme coins that have no underlying value but become an actual voice of community opposing certain changes or so. And it united so many people. It united, speaking of the 14 billion market cap itself, the fully diluted market cap is actually, it reached, I think, even over $80 billion, right? So it was also a genius move because kind of like it assigns and pulls up as a magnet, those 80 billions or so of net worth to Donald Trump's name, right? It comes kind of like under this very name. And not even so long ago, yesterday, I think it was, another coin came up, right? It was Melania coin. Another coin came up that kind of like sucked a lot of air out of the Trump's kind of like coin and put it, kind of like a couple of other $1 billion, into Melania coin. So the volatility of the crypto and its embrace, of course, it can make a lot of money. There's a lot of incredible underlying risk that can ruin a lot of reputation, ruin a lot of people. Although what comes out of that is a precedence in terms of a big presidential person, in a word, putting out a symbol to the people. Hey, I'm doing this. This is the first step. And there's going to be someone else who's going to follow it, right? Of course, we had people kind of like before, such as President Nayib Bukele, I think, of El Salvador, right? Putting out Bitcoin a couple of years ago as a national legal tender, right? People can make legal transactions on the USD side and on the Bitcoin side equally and legally, right? So there's a lot of this incredible change that just goes on, and not even regular, kind of like regular small investors, the countries, the government leaders, the people behind pulling the strings of the countries basically are doubling down on the Bitcoin. And the train is not really slowing down. And this year lines up to be a very culmination of the craze. Bitcoin is most likely going to be on the mouths of every single person in the next 6 months or so. It's the time to be alive, as we say.
What a time. Do you have something to add, Livio?
Well, I think that here we're trying to connect on one hand the fact that we are very far from achieving sustainability and the goals that we have achieved. On the other hand, we have a political scenario that has shifted the focus that we had in the past, and also unlimited opportunities from AI and technologies with the opportunity and risks that are associated and that are clearly highlighted. And here, the objective is really probably to understand how we can move beyond in this narrative of how to connect the dots and how to create a new financial markets that can allocate the resources in the direction that we want to achieve. Because this is the primary goal. The financial resources are much broader than the goal that we want to achieve, but if you are using them for the wrong purposes, then we don't know where we're heading. And the notion is that we have to understand if there is a trade-off between sustainability and financial performance, or there is a correlation or a causality effect. And being able to connect these dots and to shift the narrative from declaration to intention, to actions, to the capacity to report the results, but most of all to monetize these impact through distributed ledgers and now cryptocurrencies that enable to create a markets on areas that are previously untapped. This is the area where we want to invest. And we have, of course, the companies and the subjects that are able to embed these logics into their business and their strategy, outperform their peers, and they represent, if you want, a new competitive engine, a new levels of maturity in companies that are more sophisticated than others. And with AI, we have studied and analyzed at the global level all sustainability reports of any companies in the world over the last 30 years. And we have been able to detect, let's say, 1 million sustainability initiatives. And we have been classifying them in terms of why they're doing it, in terms of SDGs, what they're doing, in terms of types of action, if they are really just now doing communication and stuff, so that it's not really make a change, or if they are really doing change, so they're innovating themselves, they are contributing to tackling these challenges. Well, and we connect those actions to sustainability performance, to financial performance. And the great news is that the companies that are more advanced, so they're able to really do innovation, outperform systematically their peers by 2.7% every year. So it means now 40% over now 13 years. So these companies are stronger than their peers. So this can help not just the companies to transform themselves, but also to investors to reallocate their assets into the companies that are really able to embed these transformative strategies. And this can be an accelerator of the transition, but this can also help create a market to monetize this impact. There is an unlimited opportunities there to create currencies that are focused on CO2 emission reduction or on health, on education. This is the space that we want to feed. And these are the space where companies, investors, and policymakers that are willing not just to run the risk of being at 95%, that there is risky, as we were saying before, in the cryptocurrencies, but are really looking at investing in sustainable and green and just growth. This is what we're looking at.
That's awesome. And on the other side of risk is always opportunity, right? And Livio actually recently published a paper that shows the outsized results of focusing on sustainability. And for anyone in the audience who wants to find that paper, Livio, can you give them some information on how they can find it?
Of course, you can have it online, so you just can connect to the websites of Leonardo Center at Imperial College. I've got some QR code, so you can download it. Please get in touch with me as soon as we finish, and we'll be happy to share these insights.
Great, and we're going to come to Janina on sustainability and investing in just a moment. Steve, I think you had something to add.
Yeah, I think it's a good point that Adrian, you brought up. I think the key to all of it is one thing, and that is leadership. And I think you touched on that. And how about sustainable IT? These are CEOs and CIOs that are standing up and saying, hey, you know what? It's damn time that we as leaders start to take some initiative and actually make some real change. And you got to give sustainable IT a huge shout because they're actually standing up for what they believe in, right? And these are CEOs who are saying, you know what? Above profit, I'm actually happy to do this. I'm actually happy to scale back just a wee bit and make the world a better place. So I think it's leadership that has to do that, whether it's Trump coin or whatever. But I think it's sustainability in this world that has to stand up. So big applause to that.
Awesome, and that's a awesome for leadership, for strong leadership in public and private sectors. And that's an awesome segue to Janina. You sit in a very unique seat as the global head of sustainability at one of the world's largest software companies. You have some of the biggest clients and customers in the world. Can you share with us your views on what leaders in this audience, business leaders, policymakers, can do to ensure more inclusive economies and more inclusive finance moving forward?
Yeah, happy to. And maybe one thing, because I've been listening now for a while, and one thing that kept spinning in my head is you said it in the beginning, like that incredible speed of innovation that we're seeing now and that it's outpacing us. And I think that's true. The risk that we have with that is that it's going without direction, because we're so excited about like all of the new opportunities. And what we see, for example, when we're working with businesses is that for a long time for companies, it truly mattered to work with precision. So knowing exactly what we're doing in a sense, but what is truly important in these days is that it's also going with purpose, and then there's some sort of direction and fueling and funneling everything that we do into that direction. And I think that's a question that we have to probably ask ourselves in any kind of innovation, whether it's in finance or any other direction, the kind of like, what is the direction that we're taking? Is it just exciting because it's like, what a time to be alive? Or is it really like solving what we're actually having right in front of us, what needs to be solved? And there's two things that I'm seeing right now in companies that will be truly important to get towards that goal of having a more inclusive and also still profitable and beneficial economy, because I mean, we're all clear that it's not going without money. We need finance to like direct basically all the funds into the right direction. And we're seeing the first efforts to really create a lot more transparency and traceability and intelligence so that companies can create that what we call shared reality. So kind of bringing together the finance department, for example, with the supply chain departments or others, with the IT department, with the sustainability department, all look at the same thing and rethink where are we bringing the funds that our company has. And the same could be true for economies and actually governments. So like look at the same shared reality and rethink kind of like where are we bringing the funds in. And then taking all of the information and the additional transparency and feeding AI with that. And I think we also heard that in the beginning, the kind of like an extended database for that. So that is one thing. And I think we have the right technology, we have the right speed and the right innovation already available. But what then needs to happen is truly bringing the right people together and increase the collaboration. And that is also back to what we also heard in the beginning, a bit of that technology fatigue. Not so sure. I think with people, we just want to have it very, very easy so we can focus again on that collaboration piece and the kind of like, what are we wanting to achieve together? And I think that will be truly, truly crucial. But going back to that, we have all the intelligence at hand, we have the right people, and now it's, I think, a matter of like, do we shift the focus into the right direction and bring in the right purpose?
Wonderful, and that's a perfect note to end on. We are almost at time. I would like each of our panelists to leave you with one big takeaway. I will kick us off. I agree with you 100% on AI and the funnel. I will say that a lot of large language models are limited by the inputs and by the people who are using it. And so I see an opportunity for more inclusive outputs if we broaden the net on who is adding inputs. And so really encouraging everyone to use the tools, get comfortable with them, and encourage those in your communities to use them as well. Because if you're not part of the process of development, you will be left out of the output. And I'm going to go back in this direction for one takeaway for everyone in the audience.
I think the one thing that I want to give people is that a lot of transformation and a lot of innovation happens because people trust. And people trust each other, and they trust especially if there is a lot of transparency. So I think we should think about anything that we do with AI or any kind of innovation on how can we create that transparency and collaboration so we build trust to then drive our goals forward.
I believe that the focus has to be on the capacity to create market models to monetize impact, social environmental impact, through collaboration in order that complex value chains are able to create and share values between those who contributed to these creations. And so it's a new capacity, new capabilities, and learning to work on systemic change with a collaborative approach is a new dimensions that each organization, each individual has to develop.
I think I would end up with a quote from Warren Buffett himself that he said one day that the best investment you can make is an investment in yourself, because the more you learn, the more you will earn. I think it does apply to the cryptocurrency education and realizing that not answering this opportunity, this generational opportunity, actually has its cost, and its cost is probably off the record, too big to ignore. So whoever wants to get a little bit of the reliable guidance on the Web3 and decentralized finance, digital assets, I'm gonna be able to talk to you guys off the stage, and I appreciate the opportunity. And passing over to an even greater legend.
I think that if I could impart any knowledge on anyone, I think it would be what my grandfather told me on his deathbed. He said, "Kid, whatever you're doing, just do it. Whatever's inside of you has to come out." So I always tell people the same thing. Whatever's inside of you that you have to do, you have to build, you have to make the world a better place, don't wait for somebody else. Don't just go to conferences and talk about it. I think Nike had the best quote ever. Just do it. And I think, look, we're here. We're here not to talk about things, but to actually get those ideas and go back to where we're from and actually do it. I was just in Tokyo and I watched them come in with wide eyes. I was just in England and wide eyes about the world. Don't talk about it. Just do it.
Amazing. Thank you to all of our panelists. Thank you, Inkwell Beach, Davos, for having us.
Thank you.